Sure, I hope you're having a great day, man. Welcome into the game in T-Town.
Great to be back on with you in Tuscaloosa in the City of Champions, Ryan, on Tide 102.9. I always enjoy the opportunity. And you're right. I heard you talking about Talia Tagovailoa. What a comeback. I know you were there in person. I watched on television. And one of the more exciting high school games you're ever going to see. It's basically an infomercial for Alabama football. And I noticed Coach Ed Ogeron wasted some time and plane miles and gas coming to see it. But certainly he'll get a chance to see both of the Tagovailoas in the future. But Talia put on a show, and in his own right, people want to compare him to his brother. I don't think he's Tua, but I've always said he's close, and certainly he's an elite talent in his own right. He was able to show, the United States that on Friday.
I guess one of the reasons why these guys are so good is Tua told us a couple of minutes ago that everybody – think about this. I guess it goes back to the dad, Mr. Tagovailoa. And when you talk about them training the way that they do, it was an off week for a lot of people. They get away from football, right? Well, sometimes that football is your kind of your happy place. So Talia played the game, gets done, fairly late, probably gets some treatment after running the football the way that he did, and they go back out Saturday and train with their dad. That's why these kids are so good. It's something about work ethic. And so Saturday morning they get up and have a training session with both Tua and Talia. So you look at that and it kind of gives us a little bit of understanding of why these kids are so talented.
Well, certainly. I mean, they put the work in. They love the game, but they have a lot of intangibles. You have to want to be good. You have to work at it, especially if you want to be a quarterback at the highest level. And certainly Nalu has done a great job with both of his sons and working them. And, some people would worry about burnout, but obviously these kids, want to compete. They made the choice, to want to be good and to want to do this. And, they are both, prodigies in a way. I mean, Tua's had the kind of career he started at Alabama that we've never seen before. And I think Talia can also be a top shelf starting quarterback at Alabama. They're going to be surrounded by a lot of talent. And the amazing part is, and I think this is what means a lot to Nalu, is Nick Saban has, changed his offense for these two young men. He's changed it for Tua. It will stay that way for Talia. And that's what makes Nick Saban maybe the greatest of all time, is his ability to adapt and change. And if you look at what they're doing offensively, Ryan, it doesn't even resemble what they did 10 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, even in 2012, when they won the second of back-to-back titles. They've become completely multiple offensively, more spread concepts, but yet they haven't lost their physical edge, and they never will under Nick Saban. You will never see Alabama become a Big 12 team where they don't play defense, but now they can score points with anyone in college football.
What can keep Alabama from winning this game on Saturday? What can prevent Alabama from going down and getting the victory down in Baton Rouge?
An injury to Tua Tagovailoa.
That's simple.
That's simple.
So what do you think of the game? I mean, we're not able to hook up last week, and I think it's the first time we've went through a week in a long time without having you a part of the show. And I'm gonna get your thoughts. Do you see this game being close?
I do not. I see it being a 38-13 Alabama win. I think Jalen Hurts will take the snaps in the fourth quarter. I still don't think we'll see Tua Tagovailoa play a complete game. And the reason I believe that is because I have a lot of respect for LSU defensively. Certainly, they have an outstanding secondary, but I do think they will be without Devin White, which won't be easy on them. But I don't think their defensive line is as good as it has been in the past. They don't have the outside pass rushers like a Caleb Chase on. Now, certainly, David Aranda will fix up the looks, and I wouldn't even be surprised if it took Alabama half a quarter to get going. But I'll be honest. I mean, I know that David Aranda figured out how to slow down Jalen Hurts and stop him, but it's not going to be as easy with Tua Tagovailoa, especially considering that I think he's had a week to rest and get his knee better and be more mobile. And I think they'll have Devontae Smith back, but on a pitch count. When you look at every position And I even think that Alabama's secondary can go pound for pound with LSU. To me, the only decided advantages they have, and really it's not nearly as decided as it was maybe, 3 or 4 weeks ago. They certainly have the advantage at place kicker and punter, but they do not have, an advantage at any other spot. I think Alabama has got better kickoff and punt returners. I think Alabama is better on the offensive and defensive side of the football, and I just think the University of Alabama overall is just a better football team. And I think Alabama has a coaching advantage when you compare Steve Ensminger and Mike Locksley and Dan Enos. I think Alabama's going to have, I know that they're going to do some different things offensively probably to Alabama when they try to attack Alabama's defense, but I really think offensively that Alabama's got some things they haven't shown too, and I think they probably saved it for LSU. And I think these players are relishing the challenge of going to Red Stick. I think they enjoy it.
No, I do too. So do you think this is just going to be a media-created hype machine? Is that what this is? We're going to hear all about LSU because you got to believe it or not, somebody needs Alabama to get knocked off. In other words, they pull for these teams because they want it to be close. It kind of helps them fit the narrative. But at the end of the day, college football needs Alabama. This weekend was sleeping boring without Alabama. I mean, did you agree?
Well, yeah. I mean, I thought that the Kentucky-Missouri game was a tremendous ending, but for 3.5 quarters, it was a snooze fest. It was 14-3. I thought you saw 2 pretty good football teams go head-to-head with Georgia and Florida, but I don't think they're in Alabama's class. I don't think LSU is in Alabama's class. I certainly think it'll be the biggest road test for Alabama. You have to respect Tiger Stadium. You have to respect that the game's at night. But Alabama's had a lot of success historically in Baton Rouge, even before Nick Saban got there. And now that Nick Saban's been at Alabama, he's only lost 1 time in Baton Rouge. Certainly, most of the games have been close, no doubt about it. But I do think that Alabama, can this time they have something that they haven't had. And I think Tua Tagovailoa is the X factor. If they protect him and give him time, even against this LSU secondary and Dave Aranda, I think that Alabama can have a lot of success. Remember, Ryan, I know it was a season opener, and he didn't have the athletes he has at LSU, but Alabama had a lot of success running and throwing on Dave Aranda at Wisconsin. And people, kind of forget that. That's where he came from.
We do forget that.
Yeah, exactly. Dave Aranda is a great defensive coordinator, but I just think Alabama has got too much talent at every position. And I think Joe Burrow has done a nice job, but he's completing 53% of his passes and only has 6 touchdowns. And I just think this LSU offense, I think that, and I hope this for Alabama's sake, they need to have a chip on their shoulder because I don't think Alabama's defense is being given enough credit. All everybody's doing is talking about LSU's, and I think Alabama's got just as good, if not better, a defense than LSU's. They're getting better each week.
Yeah, and I think that's the point when you look at how dangerous this team will be if this defense – I mean, you look at the linebackers for a couple of minutes. They're beginning to play with a lot more confidence, and communication doesn't seem to be having some of those mental lapses and some errors there. This team defensively seems to be finally playing a little Alabama up to the standard of Crimson Tide football.
Well, I think so. I think, certainly game experience is really helping Dylan Moses and Mac Wilson as they've decided to become 3-down players and their roles have changed. I think Christian Miller has had moments. I think Anthony Jennings, hopefully each week, Jennings is getting better and better coming back from that severe knee injury. I really think the defensive line is really starting to assert itself under, Coach Tuscaloosa. I think you look at Alabama's leading the SEC with 26 sacks. This is an LSU offensive line that's kind of been in flux because of the injury. And I certainly think they'll max protect Joe Burrow, but I have a lot of confidence that Alabama continuing to get some pressure on Burrow and then to cover in the back end. And then LSU's kicked a lot of field goals, Ryan. 21 out of 23. Cole Tracy's been probably the best kicker in America. But the bottom line is 3 points is not going to beat Alabama. Alabama is going to score. I mean, we saw how the Gators were able to get the 20s on LSU. So was Auburn. And this Alabama offense is not even in the same realm with those teams. And I do think it's going to be very hard for LSU to keep Alabama out of the 30s.
Drew, and you talked about it there. Touchdowns, field goals is not going to win this game. Thank God.
Certainly Joe Boulevas has had his moments. He's had some inconsistency. But I do think that Coach Jeff Banks has helped him a little bit. I thought his game against Missouri was much better than the one against Louisiana. And you got to understand, Alabama scored so many touchdowns, Ryan. They haven't had to kick the football a whole lot. They haven't had to punt a whole lot. But I do think that Alabama has improved since the struggles for Boulevas in that Missouri game. I think Coach Jeff Banks has helped him maybe tweak some things. And I do think it was very encouraging in the Tennessee game to see Mike Bernier. This Alabama team's not going to punt a whole lot, Ryan. And if they can get 40 yards per punt out of Bernier for the rest of the season, they'll take that in a heartbeat.
Drew, tomorrow night, college football playoffs are released for the very first time. We will learn about exactly what this committee's thinking. Certainly, we know the number one team in college football. It will be the University of Alabama. But other than that, give me the four teams. You can tie all this together. You can look ahead to schedules. Who do you think will be the last four teams standing when college football playoff rankings are released for the final time, not the first time? Who will be the first, the four teams left standing?
That's a great question, Ryan. I think it'll be Alabama, Clemson, more than likely Notre Dame. I mean, I don't think they have too many, tests left. And then it's probably going to be someone like the Oklahoma Sooners if they can run the rest of the table, because they've only lost to Texas. Texas, had a speed bump and lost to Oklahoma State. Will probably lose again. But if Oklahoma's only losses to Texas and they end up winning the Big 12 championship, I would say it'll be Oklahoma. Michigan, I don't trust them. I know they're good on defense, but I think it's a situation where they'll probably either lose to Penn State or Ohio State. Ohio State's been dysfunctional. Even if Ohio State has one loss, it's going to be tough because that one loss is to a team in Purdue that's probably going to lose 6 games and be lucky to go to a bowl game, and you lost to them by 29. So even if Ohio State only has one loss, I can just hear it now. They're going to be yelling from the rooftops. But I just think they'll be the quality of opponent that they lost to. But right now, if you had to ask me, I think it's definitely going to be Alabama, Clemson. I don't think Clemson's going to lose in the regular season. Notre Dame, Notre Dame around this time last year started to falter, but if they don't this year, I just don't think their schedule's as tough. USC certainly not what everyone thought. So I think Oklahoma, to me, because since they lost to Texas, who's a top 15 team, and if they can run the table going forward, West Virginia is going to have a lot to say about it, though. West Virginia is probably a sleeper. West Virginia could come out of there if they only have one loss, but I don't trust a lot of these Big 12 teams. I think Oklahoma is more talented than West Virginia, but I think right now, if you had to ask me, I would say the fourth team would be West Virginia, because another loss is going to knock Georgia out, and I just don't trust Michigan because I don't think they're good enough offensively.
What does it say about college football that you've got Florida, which is a bad I say bad. I mean, yeah, Dan Mullen's done some things, but they're 6-2. Obviously, they're not up in the elite classification with Alabama, Georgia. You look at Penn State, Texas, Utah, no. Houston, no. Utah State, Iowa, Fresno State, Mississippi State, 5-3 football team in the top 25 in college football. Syracuse, Virginia, Boston College, and Texas A&M 5-3. I mean, what does it say that between 13 and 25, Drew, there's some very average and below average football teams there.
Yeah, there is. I mean, there's no question about it. I think that, there's really a big drop-off after the top 6 to 8 teams in the country. There's no doubt there's a lot of mediocre football teams. I mean, you look at it, and Kentucky, they're having a dream season for them. They're 7-1, Ryan, but they lost in overtime to a little above average Texas A&M team, I guess, and then really almost lost to Missouri. And Coach Mariota had a meltdown. I mean, we saw that in Bryant-Denny Stadium. And Missouri does have some talent. They were able to, have a little bit of success against Alabama. But, Kentucky, they struggle throwing the football. Although nobody, rooting harder for Mark Stoops than Kentucky against Kirby Freeze. Smart on Saturday. I hope Kentucky wins that. You don't know when they'll ever have another opportunity to win an SEC Eastern Division championship. But I will say this. I don't see Alabama even getting challenged by anybody else in the SEC right now unless Georgia makes a lot of improvement, because I think they have a lot of questions on defense as far as their front seven and their pass rush. Offensively, I don't see a lot of creativity. They can certainly run the football, but I think they'd have a hard time doing it against Alabama. Jake Fromm's a good quarterback, but he's not in the same realm as Tua Tagovailoa. And then with Kentucky, they have I never thought I would say this. Right now on this day, the Kentucky Wildcats have the best defense in the SEC, but they're one-dimensional on offense. And I think if they played the University of Alabama, Alabama would beat them 30-plus. It would be a worse beatdown than we saw maybe in 2014 when Alabama took out Missouri.
Do you think this Georgia-Alabama game will live up if Alabama makes it to Atlanta, Georgia makes it to Atlanta? What do you see happening there if that is a possible scenario?
Alabama 42, Georgia 14.
Oh, Lord. Come on, Drew. Come on now. You drinking the Kool-Aid, man.
Hey, man, I don't like this Georgia defense. They don't have difference makers on there. I don't think they're going to be able to run the football at will on Alabama. I wasn't impressed with, how they looked on Saturday. Felipe Franks doesn't impress me at all. And when you look at it and you look at Kentucky, I think Kentucky's got more than a puncher's chance because of their defense on Saturday. We'll see how well Fromm can throw against them. But watching LSU kind of push them around and watching Missouri do it too, and really only a fumble return for a touchdown, a blocked punt, kept Georgia winning that football game. I just think when you look at Tua Tagovailoa, and I think this Alabama defense is getting better and more confident every week, I think Alabama wins by 21 to 28 points against Georgia as well. I don't see Georgia right now as a legitimate challenge for Alabama.
Drew DeArmond, connect with him. Drew D 977 ESPN. Drew D 977 ESPN. I appreciate you, Drew. I hope you have a great week, and we'll talk to you next week. Thank you, sir, for being a part of the show.
Always enjoy it, Ryan. Thank you.